Shalom, party people, and welcome to the 12th C. It is December 1, 2022, day 61 of 75, hard for me. Approximately 24, 25-ish degrees, 5:30 a.m. I did 100 kettlebell swings, 50 feet elevated push-ups, 3 miles in 26 minutes. For what it's worth, the 1 minute difference, I don't know if it was just my headspace or what, but I was like, man, this one felt different, felt a little bit slower. And I looked at my watch and I was like, oh, minute slower. Not the end of the world. I was more focused with staying warm than anything else, but just trucking on. Photo gallon, 202 pounds even. So it's something that today I was constantly thinking of. Like, hey, I'm going to watch my portions. Something that I don't want it to get ahead of me. I understand putting on a little bit of muscle. I understand, a few things here and there, but ultimately a lot of that comes down to the quantities of what I am eating. But the big thing is going to be not picking up food that is right in front of me that like my son didn't finish, or there's like, oh man, there's not even a full serving of that left. I'll just go ahead and add it into what I'm eating and just call it good. And it's like, I need to be more diligent with what I'm eating, with what I'm saying no to. And today that was something that was relatively easy because I saw that number on the scale that I didn't like, and I was like, if I'm gonna lose some of this fat around my midsection, I'm gonna really watch what I'm putting in. So it's a good reminder. Peanut butter banana oatmeal for breakfast, turkey whole wheat roll, corn, mashed potatoes with turkey gravy for lunch, and then some leftover turkey with an egg and some cheese, turned that into a panini on whole wheat bread, had some green beans and some carrots with hummus. 2 Corinthians 2 through 11 for my Bible reading today, and then I am continuing in Killing Sacred Cows by Garrett Gunderson. All in all, I don't think this is a bad book. I really feel he's pushing his brand, his website, and apparently his website has a lot of resources for, hey, this is some ways you can generate wealth and revenue and, move on. The point of this book is just to break your mind free from a lot of the things we tell ourselves that are either cliche or wrong when it comes to the financial industry. And I'm not a big finance reader. I don't know, maybe I should be, especially doing life on one job right now, one income for a family of 4. I don't know. I don't like that. I don't like owing people anything as far as monetarily is concerned. I don't like, not having all the bells and the whistles, but at the same time, I think there's a lot of joy that comes from, because I've had jobs where I made way more money than a kid my age should have. I used to work oil, and I was making, I think it was $22.75 an hour, $22.50 an hour is what I started at, and it went north from there. And then overtime put it at $33.75, and it was 86-hour weeks. So it was huge paychecks, absolutely huge paychecks. And I spent a lot of money that I should have done other things with. I didn't truly waste it on things that I'd never get back, but I bought a lot of toys that I didn't need to buy. And then, what I was making in a week, I'm making in a month right now. The drastic differences, and it's not all about money. It's really not. I think some of the big ones are time with your family. Something that I do like that Mr. Garrett Gunderson is talking about is doing what makes you happy. The 9 to 5 banging your head on a desk is not for everybody. Right now, it is a means to an end. And I will say that I have a lot more joy in my job than I thought I was going to have when I signed up for the one that I'm working right now. even the one that I'm working right now, before I got into the position that I'm in, I actually like it. I don't wake up every day and go, man, I can't wait to get to work. But I do wake up every day not dreading going to work, where it's like, oh, hey, I got work today. And I like my coworkers. I like my paycheck. I like, my boss. I like what I do. And that was something that I think is good. That is something that I think is good. So, I don't feel like I'm in that drudge. And don't get me wrong, there's days that are like, oh, I don't know about the day, but those are actually pretty rare, which is good. I do like that Mr. Gunderson is talking about doing what you love, and I think there are ways that people can transition out of that rat race and into something that they love, but that's going to require that they take some risks, in all honesty, and that's part of it. Worst case scenario, you fail. Opportunity to learn. A point that he makes is that no one can really predict what the market is going to do, because you'll have all these financial planners who will tell you, oh, hey, if you look at this model that we're doing, you can invest this much for this many years and you can walk away with this much money. Well, I'm seeing a lot of people retiring or trying to retire that have been doing that and don't have the money that they were promised they were going to have. And this is, I've even seen this 10 years ago. So there is something to what Mr. Gunderson is talking about. That being said, I have also seen people come out very well ahead from investing. And I think the difference between someone who is coming out ahead and somebody who is not coming out ahead is, number one, you talk with a financial planner, they are trying to sell you something. And maybe what they're selling you is going to be great. Maybe what they're selling you is not going to be great. And that's, a different discussion for a different day. But what I do think is that the people who are more diligent with their investment strategies, who are really staying on top of what they're doing, and maybe not even getting aggressive, but they're making sure that when they are in a position of strength, that they are continually strengthening their position and not just letting things ride. So they're diligent in what they are doing, versus somebody who, their financial planner just said, hey, throw this much money at them and it's going to be okay. Those are the ones that I'm seeing that aren't walking away with as much as what they were promised. So for what that's worth, some of the lies that he's talking about is you're in it for the long haul. And, I'm not going to hash this one out for a long time, but basically people will talk about this whenever their investments are losing money. They're like, oh, you got to remember you're in this for the long haul, and there's little market dips here and there. And it's like, sometimes there are things where we just got to cut our losses and move on. And I think there is a real element to being patient through little dips. But I also think there is not getting into a sunk cause fallacy, where I've already put this much in and I can't walk away. I'm like, well, it could get a lot worse. So walking away may prevent it from just completely blowing up in your face. It's a thought. I can't say definitively one way or the other for every individual. I think that needs to be someone becoming diligent with what they're doing. And if they need to be diligent and hang on and ride something out, then okay. Or if they need to be diligent and say, you know what, I'm not going to let my emotions get the better of me. We're going to sever ties and move on. So I think the real lesson is diligence. And then another lie is it's all about numbers. And there's the whole side of things is it's a numbers game, man. You gotta, keep slowly investing. And yeah, maybe you do got to keep slowly investing, but it may not always be about the numbers, because we can really lie with numbers. We can, what is it? The Mark Twain quote about there's a lie, there's a damn lie, and then there's statistics. You can lie with those numbers. And maybe it's more about doing what brings you the most joy. And sometimes the money may not be there. Case in point, I get a lot more joy by being home at a respectable hour every afternoon, having holidays off, having a decent amount of vacation time, having a decent amount of sick time. It's a pretty good gig when you're able to take 6+ weeks off for having a child. There's not a lot of places that do that. Now, obviously, we can look at Google and Facebook and all of the Silicon Valley people who give their employees a long time to be off. But 6 weeks is a long time. It's a lot longer than I would have had if I had been at my previous job and having babies. It would have been, hey, go home and kiss your baby and then get back to work. So things that make you the most joy, maybe it's not about the 6-figure paycheck. Maybe it's about actually being able to invest in your children and in your spouse. Maybe it is about being able to take that mental health motorcycle ride. Maybe it is about going and seeing the world. I think it's on the individual level. There are people who have nothing that are absolutely happy, and there are people who have everything that are absolutely miserable, and vice versa. There's people who are miserable with nothing, and I think a lot more of that is mindset as to where the misery is versus where the misery is not. And then he talks about the financial security side of things, and there's been studies done, and typically the more wealthy people that are out there who have gained their wealth got their wealth from doing what they loved doing. It's really rare that someone saves their way to $1 million. Is it theoretically possible? I guess. Can someone invest their way to $1 million? Yeah, they can, and they do. It happens. But like I was talking about earlier, in my observations, just from what I've seen in the last 10 years, the people who are investing their way to $1 million are the ones who are extremely diligent with what they're doing, and it typically is not a financial advisor that's getting them there. They are the ones who are moving their money on their terms, on their time, based off of their research, and then they're getting good tips and they're taking good advice from other places. But the average Joe, I don't see too many people who are investing their way to $1 million just by throwing their money in a 401k or at a financial advisor. I've talked about no one knows what the market's going to do. Your investors can promise you, hey, it's going to do this. Hey, if it continues at the rate that it's been doing, historically, then we can look at this. It's like, well, if there is one deviation in there somewhere, then that chart's going to be completely different than what you're saying it's going to be. So you can't rely too heavily on that. Obviously, we're talking about you can lie with the numbers. Honestly, you have to be the one to go make your financial security happen. And that is going to be more of a prevailing truth than anything else. And you have to be the one of, hey, I'm going to have real stewardship with this, and I'm going to identify what I can do to create value. I'm going to identify what I can do to make the most out of what I've got and what brings me the most joy, and go do it. So sometimes that may be liquidating some assets that we have saved up for a nest egg, and the penalties on liquidating those assets are lower than the returns that we're going to get from being able to invest in something that is, a lifelong passion. And seek wise counsel, and if that's the case, do it. But then there's other cases where, hey, we are specifically saving this nest egg for this purpose, and we have got this mission statement behind it, and this is why, and everybody agrees on the why, and we're gonna agree to let it suck now for a little while, so that way we can have these specific returns, and this is what we are going to do. this is our timeline, this is how we're going to get there. And like, you really need to have a business plan behind it, and not just I'm saving this for when I decide to retire, but I don't have a clear-cut plan. I really think the diligence behind, the intentionality behind, this is what I'm going to do, this is how I'm going to do it, XYZ, and maybe reassess every few years. Are we on track? Is this still what we want? Because things do change. So, all in all, Mr. Garrett Gunderson's book is interesting. I don't think it is as provocative as I had originally understood it to be. But definitely hey, you're not going to save your way to $1 million is, I don't think he's the only one talking about that, but I do think he is packaging this in an interesting enough way. He does hit pretty hard on go check out my website. Why wouldn't you plug yourself? So I really can't fault him for that. But takeaway seriously from this one is like what I was talking about yesterday, is create value, not scarcity. And for this one, I think it's diligence and stewardship is going to matter 10 times more in achieving what your end goals are going to be than just being passive about things. So that's the default aggressive that Jocko was talking about. So yeah, go do hard things.